Now, St John's has buildings on both sides of the river. This college was founded by Lady Margaret Beaufort, who was the grandmother of Henry VIII, his father's side. Now the building on my left-hand side across the lawn here, this very grand kind of fairy tale castle looking building, it's called the New Court. They call it the wedding cake. It's tiered construction. Now that building was built in the 19th century. It's actually student accommodation. Students live in that big fairy tale. Second year St John's student. Pretty grand. A lot nicer than I remember my student digs being. This is the kitchen bridge at St John's. You can see the Beaufort family crest above the middle archway there. On the left you've got the Tudor Rose, and on the right the Beaufort portcullis. This bridge was constructed in 1711.
我是录影。这个相机也可以录影的，话术比。
Built in 1831, same time as the New Court. It's actually called the New Bridge. It's not called the Bridge of Sighs at all. That's just a nickname. Now the nickname came about because of Queen Victoria. When she first came to visit the bridge, she said that it was very pretty and picturesque. And then she said it reminded her of the Bridge of Sighs in Venice. Now it doesn't really look anything like the Bridge of Sighs in Venice. It's a covered bridge, but that's about the only similarity. Now Henry Hutchinson knew this, but he didn't feel comfortable disagreeing with Queen Victoria. He just kind of said, yes ma'am, and they kind of stuck after that. Back wall of the wedding cake, or the New Court that we saw from around the corner, and it's covered in this beautiful ivy called Virginia creeper. And it actually hides the lack of masonry on the back wall. You see where the masonry ends and the standard brickwork begins on the back wall there. And that was a cost-cutting measure, trying to save money. It's a very expensive building to construct. To save a bit of cash, they let the masonry off at the back wall completely, and they were thinking, well, maybe it wouldn't be looked at by anyone because it was the back door. Now, since it's been covered in ivy, it's become one of the most famous sights in Cambridge, only sort of by accident. And in the autumn time, those leaves go up in deep red.
And even then, some of the men
We're coming into the grounds of Magdalen College now. Now, Magdalen was founded in the year 1542 by a guy called Thomas Audley, who was the Lord Chancellor of the Exchequer for King Henry VIII for a while. Now, Thomas Audley wasn't very well liked. He was considered quite a devious politician, rather an evil man by most people.
哇，小鸭子！我看到小鸭子。
鸭妈妈跟小鸭子在吃东西。
I find the ducks are far more interesting than medieval English history lessons.
好笑吗？
我比较对绿岛这个兴趣。
对这个历史没兴趣。
This is Magdalen Bridge. This was the second ever iron bridge to be built in the UK. The first one was Telford Bridge, this one came second in the early part of the 19th century. Now this bridge was actually rebuilt in the early 1980s, same design as the original. These buildings on my left, these red brick buildings here, actually predate Magdalen College. The college itself used to be a hostel for visiting monks, and these are the buildings they would stay in when they came to visit.
这个啊
It later became Buckingham College. And then
对呀
after that,
对啊，我在拍的这个。
sorry, 1542, refounded again and renamed as Magdalen. Some people are confused about the pronunciation of Magdalen. It looks like Magdalene. We usually say Magdalene when we're talking about the biblical figure. It's just the contemporary pronunciation of the word.
这是船公司的另外一个。
This quayside area on my left-hand side. This is up until the
没有啊，才是12分。
18th, 19th century. Quite an industrialised area. There would have been a lot of factories, warehouses in different roads. All part of the town. Now back in the 8th century AD, this iron bridge obviously wasn't here. It's a wooden bridge here, built by an Anglo-Saxon king Offa. Now the bridge itself was made of wood. It would have been called the Great Bridge or the Camp Bridge. But really the bridge that stood there in the 8th century AD really gave the whole town its name. That red brick building, just on my right hand side, just towards the front of the boat, is the Lutyens building. It's a student accommodation block. It was built in 1932 by a man called Edwin Lutyens. He did an awful lot of work in India. He designed the presidential palace there. Now this next building on my right, just in front of the boat, this is the Cripps Court. It's one of the only modern buildings that really was built on the Bass. It's not very popular, it's quite a controversial building. Most people tend to prefer the more traditional style. This was built in the early 60s, kind of modernist kind of style. It's actually a Grade 2 listed building, protected by law. It confuses a lot of people. It's actually a fine example of early 1960s brutalist architecture.
这个啊对啊，都已经清空了。
剑桥那个桥在哪里啊？在哪里那个桥？
为什么这么多鸭子？哇！
Coming back through St John's, a lot of people ask about these mysterious doors. It's one on my right hand side, an old delivery door. They used to deliver coal through to what used to be the boiler room for St John's. See the rings there where they would moor the boats up to make their deliveries. These boats used to be working boats. For pleasure for about 100 years or so. Prior to that, it really is all over this part of the country. Things like reed cutting and fishing, so for moving goods around. This door on my left is used mainly for the delivery of goods and food. Back under the kitchen bridge. This bridge was actually designed by Christopher Wren initially. So sometimes we'll be Wren Bridge. It was built by Robert Brumbold really in those years. Get the glory.
我要跟他们说一个笑话。
你要不要说？
不要说笑话，人家说。
哎呀，对，不要再问这个笑话。为什么要问呢？那个就是有座桥到天边，那个哪里？
Alright. Normally wear glasses?
I have a question. Where is there any bridge called Cambridge?
The Cambridge, yeah. Did you hear the story about
Oh
that?
yeah.
It came underneath the
See?
the
I told
Morden Bridge.
see?
Stands on a place where there used to be a wooden bridge back in the 8th century. That was the Anglo-Saxon king who built the Cam Bridge, as they called it. But that was way back in the 700s.
Why don't I see why?
But it's not been there for a very long time now.
哇，这刚才听过了，好像那个桥好像看起来很像。
就是一开始那个，就是数学桥。
It varies. For example,
We're coming back past the Wren Library on my left-hand side there. You might remember I said all of the books in there dated from before 1820 with a couple of exceptions. The exceptions are by an author called A.A. Milne. There's a couple of books that date after 1820 by 100 years. A.A. Milne was the author of Winnie the Pooh books. The original manuscript, the original artwork and sketches for the Winnie the Pooh stories.
Winnie and Pooh. Winnie and Pooh, baby.
在哪里？
就一开始那个。
是吗？一开始就叫什么数学家呢？真的吗？数学 Math Bridge。You mean Math Bridge? Mommy, do you mean Math Bridge?
Now, Trinity College is one of the most successful colleges, as well as being the largest. They've educated over a third of all Cambridge-educated Nobel Prize winners. Cambridge University itself has educated no less than 86 Nobel Prize winners. 33 of those came to Trinity College. Pretty good record, way more than any other college. They're also the richest college. I said all the colleges control their own finances. This has worked out particularly well for Trinity. They've managed to amass a fortune in assets, nearly £3 billion. Mainly in land, they're one of the biggest landowners in the UK. They're up there with the church. Trinity College actually owns the lease to the O2 Dome in London. Well, at the moment, the colleges are having their May balls. Now I know it's June, but they actually have the May balls in June these days.
Oh.
So it's like a celebration. So at the end of the academic year, you know, the guys have finished their exams and they throw them a big party. And that's what these tents are for. They're going to have a massive party in a few days' time.
Thank you.
Some of the colleges, they spend a lot of money on their parties.
It's not very pleasing, but
They make a big
from
deal.
an engineering point of view, it is very light and
yeah.
very strong, which I assume
Concerts
must
there.
be the reason behind why they
Playing there this year. The bridge we're coming underneath now, this is the only public access bridge across the Backs. It's the only modern bridge that covers the Backs as well. It was built in 1960. The design actually came from a Cambridge University student. It's got a wing shape underneath the bridge there because it's an incredibly strong structure. It's the first post-tension concrete bridges to be built in the UK. The college actually held a competition to come up with a design, and it was won by Cambridge University undergrad, Timothy Guy Morgan.
Whoa. After
Now, we're back in the grounds of Clare College. If you look to my right, you see the Clare College Fellows Garden. Now, all the colleges have a Fellows Garden. Clare doesn't have the most beautiful gardens of all. Now, Sir David Attenborough, the famous wildlife documentary filmmaker, next to Clare College, he said walking those gardens, one of the things that really ignited his passion for that. Yes. Back underneath Clare Bridge now. The oldest surviving original bridge on the back. Built in the year 1640 by a guy called Thomas Grumbold. At one point, it was the only bridge left standing over the back.
Very quick, I just want to point out this, the second
During the
wall
English
end on
Civil
the left-hand
War,
side here on the top of the
Like
bridge.
Oliver Cromwell,
Actually have a portion
the
missing.
rebels, he took over Cambridge and used it as a garrison town. They stationed his troops here and used it as
很容易的，就是撑船。
Mommy.
Now Oliver Cromwell destroyed all of the bridges over the back, except for Clare Bridge, which was the newest bridge at the time. And it was really a security thing. It's easier to defend just one bridge rather than a whole series. So that was the idea. And he went so far while he was here as allowing his troops to use the King's College Chapel as stabling for their horses. There's even graffiti dating from the English Civil War, left there by Oliver Cromwell's troops, up by the altar inside the chapel. So if you ever go inside, you can go and have a look. Now the building, my left-hand side, the big white neoclassical building over there, it's called the Gibbs Building, named after the architect James Gibbs. Now Gibbs published an architectural manual, like a textbook, and included in the manual were the basic plans for that very building. Now this manual was picked up by a guy called Holborn, who was the architect of the White House in Washington. Apparently he used the plans for this building as a basis for his own design for the White House. The original White House, the Gibbs Building, looked almost identical. You guys at the front, do you know about the famous Chinese poet Zhu Ximong? There's a poem called Zai Bian Kan Chao. You guys know that?
Yeah.
Yeah? This is the bridge that was featured in the poem.
康桥。
徐志摩的人在地康桥。
雷诺啊。就是这个嘛，就是这个
Come
桥。
back through Kings. This building on my left hand side.
在讲话，我都没听他讲什么。
Now, dates from the 19th century. It's actually another student accommodation building. Considered some of the finest accommodation. The rooms are quite large. Obviously, the people that occupy these rooms here, right on the riverbank, have a beautiful view. Pretty fine accommodation, I would say.
What's your one?
How's that? Yeah. We're coming back into the grounds of Queen's College now. Queen's was founded in 1448 by Margaret of Anjou. She's the wife of Henry VI, the founder of King's College. You've got kings and queens next to each other, founded by husband and wife. Like his and hers colleges, very romantic. And the building on my left at the moment is called the Erasmus Building. And it's a student accommodation building, and it was the first modern building to be built on the Backs. It was built in the late 50s. The architect was a man called Basil Spence. He was one of the first kind of exponents of this new style. It was a kind of modernist, brutalist style that later became not very popular, but at the time it was quite a big deal. Now, it's named after Desiderius Erasmus, who was a 16th century Dutch scholar and philosopher. And he came to Queen's to study and to teach. And he introduced both Hebrew and Greek as languages of study to Cambridge. It's quite a big deal. Queen's are very proud of him, that's why they named that building after him. It's a shame though that Erasmus himself hated Cambridge. He wrote letters home while he was here saying how much he hated it. He said that the weather was terrible in Cambridge, the food was awful, the wine tasted like vinegar. He said there was only one thing that he liked about Cambridge, and that was that the women were pretty. How did he say?
只有这一条啊，
He was Dutch, they're not really famous for their good weather and wine, are they?
没有错啦，不用问的啦。
Is this
Just-
Math Bridge?
That bridge is the mathematical bridge.
Mathematical.
Yeah. Now it's kind of a nickname. It's not actually called the mathematical bridge. It's called the wooden bridge officially. It's the only wooden bridge across the Backs. A lot of people ask why it's called the mathematical bridge, and well, you can see the timbers there that come off the tangents from the arc of a circle. They create an incredibly strong structure on the vertical plane. It means the vertical load you handle the bridge, the stronger it actually becomes. There's a compression between the members. It makes it incredibly strong on that plane. You can see the bolts that hold the bridge together. There's an old myth that says they don't actually need to be there. It used to be a freestanding structure. Students took it apart to see how it worked, and failed to put it back together. It's a good story. It's always been there. They didn't get added afterwards. So
那右边是什么地方？我们跟5分钟前的同时到。
坐15分钟。
push pole on the other side, like. Sorry guys, there's a little bit of a traffic jam. We'll be away in a minute. I'll tell you what, I'll finish off with a little bit of rock history, if you like.
There we go.
Back in the 1960s, this pub used to be a jazz bar, the Riverside Bar. It's where Pink Floyd played some of their first ever gigs.
Jazz.
That's where they met Sid Barrett, you know, one of the founding members of Pink Floyd. There's a painting of him there. Right then guys, so the tour is just about to come to an end. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask before we finish?
Let's go straight out.
Yeah,
You're
it was
going to be ready for
efficient.
the test at the end.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, full marks from everyone.